talk about Oriental and Occidental traditional carpentry. And the reason that I wanted to talk about that is because I gave a lecture in Hong Kong some years ago, and I introduced traditional timber buildings in Asia and in Europe. And then this question came to me, I will explain, but basically, right. So if we start from very long time ago, this is the hut, and this is the in the European time that, well, this is prehistory time that people started to use timber, and then after that there are three different types of traditional. There are two different types of traditional timber structure. One is what we call log cabin, and another is in UK we normally call that as hut timber. And hut timber can be traced to 1 century BC, but it could be even earlier. Just the oldest that we can find is in Italy, and it's about 100 years before BC. And then for the log cabinet, it can go back long time, and no one really understands how long it can be. But the speculation now is it can go back to 3,500 years before BC. And then after that, people started to think about how we can use timber, how we can stabilize and use that in a building. So timber was then used in truss roof, and then engineer or architect or builder, they started to think about how can I triangulate that. And so this is the photo from Parthenon in Rome that you can see timber. You can see timber here. So actually, long time ago, people started to use timber in truss roof, and then in European continent, in medieval time, that different form of truss roof or different form of roof truss was developed, and you can see that they have they have truss rafter, and they have collar braced, and this is a collar braced roof that from Oxford in the UK. And then in the UK we started to develop what we call hammer beam roof, and so I bet that if you got a chance to visit UK, or if you got a chance to look at the movie, you must be able to see something like that. And this is this is in London, and then they are double layered. So this is the double layer hammer beam in Westminster Hall, and as so it was in medieval time that the master carpenter built that. And this is a detail. And this is the if we come back to the European continent, that this is the Notre Dame in Paris, and it was in 1345. And I got the chance to climb up to the roof. That this is where, if you got a chance, you will see this is the roof structure. And basically, these are old. This is where Quasimodo jumping. If you got a chance to see the musical, then this is where he lives. But later, about on top of my head, I can't remember exactly how long it was, but it was about 150 years ago when Viollet-le-Duc, he got the job to replace. This might need to be replaced. And so Viollet-le-Duc is a very good engineer, but he did not do a very good job, because he used a very big section to replace smaller section, which I think is not brave enough. And apparently, a lot of his work have been considered as over-designed. So this is how he thinks, no, he's not smart enough. And this is a barn from Bretton Avon. This is quite close to Bath, and it has been there for 700 years. And this is not timber. This is bridge. This is when This is Iron Bridge in the UK. This is when Industrial Revolution started, and at the time, the engineer they wanted to build an arch, but they did not know how to deal with the detail. So you can see that the detail that mimic timber structure is still there. So at the time that they did not get enough experience and enough knowledge to design with steel, so they borrow or they learn from the experience that they have from timber. So this is what happened, and in West, and what happened in East is that well, we can see this type of construction mainly in the south part of Asia, and this has been there for a very, very long time. And this is sorry, some of them are Chinese, but basically this is the timeline that you will see that different construction type will come out from different periods of time. But basically this 1, 2, and 3, these and 3. Basically these are 3 guidebooks that carpenters or builders need to follow. Especially this one. It was when the empire they want to build the palace, and they try to prevent from corruption. So they just try to fix, and they try to specify the timber and all the dimension and how they should be built. And this is a photo from Japan, from Kyoto. This is the whole kanji, and so you can see that basically they are very, very different from what I have shown earlier. And this is Todaiji. This is they announced this is the biggest timber building in the world, but I think they are referring to the height, not the really the width. And this is how they look like. The importance for this building is that it is really the bifurcation point that when Japanese carpenter no longer want to learn from old Chinese carpenter. Before that, Japanese carpenter could not even drill a square hole on the column. So they sent a lot of traditional carpenter to China to learn how to do that. And this is the breakup point. I would say that after that, Japanese they declare that they are no longer influenced by China, and it was the time. Then this is another temple in Nara. Again, this is the same temple in the different complex, and you can see that before, it was before that this building was built before the point that the Japan and China breakup point. So you can see that basically the detail are exactly the same, are identical. And this is the pagoda. In China, it's been there for about 1,000 years, but apparently, a series of renovation and intervention has been put on. But this is we can still see that from outside, and this is how it looks from inside. And this is the pagoda in Japan. This is pagoda in China, and you can see that in Japan they tend to have a very strong column, try to connect together as a center member to resist lateral force. But in China, they don't do that. And then in the south part of Asia, or in the south part of China, I should put it that way, that they people have what we have seen so far in Asia, they are or either temple or palace. All are very important buildings. And this is for ordinary people. And this is the photo that I've taken from Taiwan. And you can see that basically this is very, very simple. And you can see that it's very simple. And they use either they use either reeds or bamboo infill wall. And this is the model that we have built for a temple in Taiwan. And this is the detail. So you can see that basically the detail are complicated, and the detail in South Asia are much more complicated than in North Asia, because, like I say, that in the past, a lot of important and big building they built as a palace, so important temple, because they want to prevent from corruption, so they are all the dimension and all the timber, all the detail are specified, are prescribed, so you can't change that. But in South Park, because carpenters, they want to compete with each other, they want to win a job, so they will start to build something much more complicated. And this is the another temple from Taiwan. So if you look at that, you will find that basically they are all timber. They just have a smaller member just stack together, and then to put the weight on the roof to stabilize that. Okay, so after all this, I asked myself that apparently they are very different. So what makes a difference? So I opened 3 questions. How carpenter will affect the timber building? And then what timber are used, and what tool will be used to affect the building? And so I did some interview, I did some the study, and this is what I found. In Europe, builders are classified into 3 different types. One is carpenter, and one is housewright, and another is joiner. And carpenter are probably the most influential, most important role, that they are basically turn raw timber, turn log into the structure. And the housewright, they mainly to deal with design. And the joiner sometimes they are competing with carpenter, because they are mainly there to make window and door frame and some cabinet. But because they can make multi-tenant connections, so sometimes they are competing with carpenter. But the different thing in Asia is that in Asia, the carpenter needs to be responsible for the whole project inside out. So they will start from design, then try to implement their design into the real project. And another thing that I haven't put down here is the education thing. The history of carpenter in Asia can go back very long time. But it was but long time ago they have create guild in different village. So carpenter, basically, if you want to learn how to become a carpenter, you need to join the guild, and then because they different guild in different village, they are competing each other. So they did not want to reveal their skill, reveal their technique to their competitor. So unless you join them and you work with them for a while, they won't let you know how to make, how to do the way they do things. While in Asia, it was pretty much a sole apprentice system, that if you want to learn something, you just find a master carpenter, and then the interview that I have with those old carpenters, that they say, well, the most fundamental thing is you work for that master carpenter for at least 30 months with minimum wage. Then after that, if he or she is happy with your skill, then you will become a junior carpenter, and then that's still far away from master carpenter. The story that I have read for the last, they call last master carpenter in Japan, that he spent 25 years to become a master carpenter. And then what species is used? Well, basically, I think in Asia, a lot of important buildings, they have their own woodland. So they will pretty much just directly use the timber from their woodland. But for the residential buildings, like normal street houses, they will just use whatever they can get. And this is a good example. This is a Jingu in Japan, that they are famous for the way that they do that. They have 2 exactly the same site next to each other. So they will build one this, they will build one here, then another side will be empty. Then in 20 years time they will dismantle, they will dismantle the shrine here, then check, and probably some of the timber member that can no longer be used, they will replace that from their own woodland. Then we'll build another one next to, you know, next to the original site, and they do that. They do that rotate once every 20 years, and it has been, I think, it has been about 1600 years so far. I think it was last year that they did another time. Yeah. And in Europe, oak has always been very, very favorable material because the texture, because of, you know, availability and the mechanical properties. But because people use that, and so it has been the quantity of the availability of oak has been reduced. And now in modern building that we mostly use European whitewood, and sometimes we use European redwood. And this is the species distribution. Now you can see that, I mean, pretty much you can tell that you have softwood, and you have softwood which is quite light here, and you have hardwood which is darker. And then what I have done is I try to map the forestry resource with the species used, and that was why I could make the conclusion that pretty much they would just use the neighboring woodland. And another thing that I concluded that factor influencing the choice of timbers, one is climate, and then availability and acid requirement. And then tool, if you compare the two, one from Asia and another from Europe, you will find that they are basically quite similar, or the only different things that I have highlighted the yellow parts. So basically they are quite similar. But the conclusion that we have found is that the carpenter, they will adjust, they will modify their tool based on the needs for different projects. Like this is a ruler. This is a ruler from the carpenter. But normally what they do is if they have a project, they will cut a ruler for that project. Then they mark some line there, and that is just like a secret that he can only communicate with himself, not even to his apprentice, his friend. And then after that project is completed, he just put that on the roof, so no one will really know what's going on. So we have a proposal in the past that we should try to digitalize the knowledge of this traditional carpenter. Otherwise, in future, we will lose everything. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation.